Set the alarm, but today was our first day of work. Rise and shine, hands off mine, Randy, hands off mine.
Do you remember the feeling of watching My Name Is Earl for the first time, when NBC dared to gamble on a quirky sitcom about a mustached loser driving an old car, convinced the universe was punishing him, and that the only way to survive was to become a good person? The show gave us karma chaos and one of the most lovable fools in television history. But have you ever wondered why Earl never opened his eyes in any photograph throughout 4 seasons? Or that behind the scenes there was a joy so explosively intense that the script had to be rewritten? And the biggest shock of all, My Name Is Earl actually had a completely different ending, an ending that was never aired because NBC cancelled the show midway through, as if they themselves no longer believed in the cosmic justice the series preached. Today, we're going to look back at the 20 strangest facts about My Name Is Earl. Details you might have laughed off back then, but which on rewatching may make you want to start all over again from episode 1. 20. Jason Lee was once a legendary skateboarder before becoming Earl Hickey. Back when My Name Is Earl first aired, I didn't think much about Jason Lee. In our memories, he was simply Earl, the thick-moustached man in a faded flannel shirt, moving awkwardly, as if he were always half a beat behind the world. Earl didn't look like a designed character. He looked like a real person who had wandered onto television by mistake. That feeling wasn't accidental. Before becoming Earl Hickey, Jason Lee had lived an entirely different life. He grew up on asphalt with failed skate tricks, with the sound of wheels scraping against concrete. Lee was a professional skateboarder and a co-founder of Stereo Skateboards, an icon of 1990s street skate culture where everything was raw-free and required no permission. And when Jason Lee stepped into My Name Is Earl, he didn't play Earl. He brought his whole self into the role. The careless attitude, the distant gaze, the slightly off-balance stance like someone who never learned how to please anyone, all of it was residue from skate culture. Earl Hickey wasn't created on a soundstage. He was forged on the streets. 19. Earl almost didn't have a moustache. When I think of Earl Hickey, the first thing that comes to mind isn't the beat-up El Camino, nor the karma list. It's that thick moustache. And yet, ironically, that iconic detail almost never existed. Jason Lee strongly opposed the moustache. He feared it would turn Earl into a visual idiot, the kind of character people laugh at the moment he appears. For Lee, who came from street skate culture and always avoided easy stereotypes, a moustache meant the risk of being boxed into a silly role for the rest of his life. But the producers saw what Lee didn't. In an era when sitcoms were filled with interchangeable faces, they needed an instant visual identifier. One glance, and the audience had to know, that's Earl. No dialogue, no introduction. In the end, Lee agreed to compromise, and a paradox emerged. The moustache didn't swallow the character it defined him. It made Earl look like a real person from some small town, clumsy, stubborn, but trustworthy. Earl changed to become a better person. The moustache, on the other hand, it was perfect from the start. 18. The name Earl was a handwriting mistake. Have you ever thought that the name Earl sounds odd, a little funny, and strangely fitting for an unlucky man who believes in karma? A name that isn't heroic, isn't cool, and carries no hint of glory. It sounds like it was born to belong to a life full of stumbles and trouble. But back when we turned on the TV to watch My Name Is Earl, how many of us ever asked, what if Earl wasn't named Earl? The truth is, he was never meant to be called that. He was supposed to be named Carl like his father, a normal safe name with nothing remarkable about it. But because of a tiny mistake on his birth certificate, the letter C written too much like an E, his entire life veered onto a different path. No accident. No curse, just a wrong stroke of the pen. And so, Carl disappeared. Earl was born. Rewatching this detail now, I realise how unsettling it is. My Name Is Earl doesn't say our lives collapse because of big decisions. It whispers that sometimes Destiny begins with mistakes so small no one bothers to fix them. And for Earl, karma may have started right from his name, 17. The lottery idea began with losing something. You've probably experienced that feeling, losing something small, then suddenly thinking, what if it mattered? For Greg Garcia, that moment came from a very real lottery ticket. Before My Name Is Earl was ever written, Garcia once lost his lottery ticket. He didn't know whether it had won or lost. There was no climax, no answer, just a painfully ordinary thought. What if fate had just handed you a chance and then taken it away? From that question, Earl Hickey was born. A man who lives badly suddenly wins the lottery. But cruelly, at the very moment of his greatest luck, Earl gets hit by a car. As if the universe was saying outright, "You don't deserve this yet." When Garcia pitched the idea to NBC executives, nearly rejected it. A sitcom about a loser who wins the lottery and then goes around doing good deeds? Too strange, too risky, unlike anything else on TV at the time. But Garcia insisted on keeping it. Because to him, the lottery ticket wasn't about money. It was fate printed on paper and the starting point of Earl's entire karmic journey. 16. Joy Turner was almost just a background character. Do you remember the feeling every time Joy Turner appeared on screen? She didn't even have to say a word, the room would tense up. The sharp voice, the eyes ready for a fight, and the unmistakable sense that things were about to go off the rails. But few people know that Joy was never meant to be that way. In the original draft, Joy was merely Earl's annoying ex-wife, a supporting role meant to create conflict and then disappear. A true background character. If everything had gone according to plan, you might have forgotten her after just a few episodes. Then Amy Presley walked in, and everything changed. Presley played Joy with such ferocious energy that she couldn't be ignored. Aggressive, yet rhythmic, foolish, yet dangerous. The writers quickly realised they could no longer confine Joy to a minor role, so the script had to be rewritten. Joy evolved from a background character into the chaotic detonator of Camden County, a force that My Name Is Earl could not exist without. Joy wasn't created to pass through. She stayed and took over the role. 15. Earl never opens his eyes in any photograph. Have you ever noticed this Earl's driver's license, family photos, mugshots? In every single one of them, Earl has his eyes closed. Back then, it was easy to dismiss it as a silly joke, a visual running gag for laughs. But in truth, it was a very subtle reference. My Name Is Earl was tipping its hat to Forrest Gump 1994, where Forrest also never opened his eyes in any photograph. Two characters who seem very different yet are strangely alike. Both are carried along by fate. Both live decently by instinct. And both never truly see the full picture of their own lives until everything has already gone too far. It's the kind of detail you can't catch when you're young. Only when you re-watch it do you understand. Sometimes a film isn't hiding its secrets. It's just that we don't yet have enough life experience to see them. 14. Camden County doesn't exist on any map. Back when I was watching My Name Is Earl, I remember feeling a strange curiosity about Camden County. A town that appears in every episode, familiar enough that you believe it's real, yet vague enough that you can't quite place it anywhere. At first, I thought it must be somewhere in New Jersey. Then, watching more closely, the slow pace of life, the roadside diners, the rough-edged people. I thought no, it looks more like the South. But the longer I watched, the clearer it became. Camden refused to settle on any map. And it turns out that was intentional. Greg Garcia deliberately created a town that belonged to no specific state. Camden was stitched together from many places, many memories, many everyday experiences to become somewhere that feels familiar to everyone. A town you could call home no matter where you grew up. Camden County doesn't need to exist in real life. It exists to remind us that stories about mistakes and second chances can happen anywhere. 13. Camden was named after Greg Garcia's son. When I watched My Name Is Earl back then, I never once stopped to think about the name Camden. It felt too natural, too ordinary, just like so many small towns across America. Until I learned this truth. Camden wasn't a random name. Greg Garcia named it after his own son. Once you know that the entire town takes on another layer of meaning. Every Welcome to Camden County sign, every time Earl drives down a familiar road, is actually a quiet tribute from a father to his child. Garcia placed his son's name into a world where mistakes aren't the end, where everyone has a chance to make things right, start over, and be forgiven. It's not a glamorous or grand city. Camden is small, clumsy, full of trouble, but warm enough to believe that people can become better. And perhaps that is the legacy Garcia wanted to leave behind, a fictional space that holds a very real faith in second chances. Camden isn't just Earl's setting. It's a father's gift sent into television. 12. Greg Garcia doesn't believe in karma. When you watch My Name is Earl, did you believe in karma in that simple way, like I did? Do bad things and bad luck follows. Do good things and you'll be rewarded. It sounds like a moral lesson for a bedtime story, but ironically, the creator of the show doesn't believe in karma at all. Greg Garcia admitted that karma was originally just a comedic device, a convenient excuse to push Earl from one mess into another. No philosophy, no moral preaching, just comedy. Then the audience did something Garcia never expected. They believed it for real. People wrote letters, made lists, fixed mistakes in their own lives, started trying to live better simply because of a sitcom. And so karma evolved from a joke into a belief. Not because the writer intended it that way, but because the audience needed a reason to believe that doing good still matters. 11. Kentucky has palm trees. I remember the first time I noticed this detail, it was during an HD rewatch. Before that, on an old TV, everything was blurry enough for your brain to quietly patch over the inconsistencies. But then suddenly, something felt off. In the crab shack, in the photos on the wall, even in the opening credits. Palm trees. The problem is this Camden County is supposed to be in Kentucky, and Kentucky doesn't have palm trees. The climate doesn't allow it. Geography rejects it. Logic objects. So is this a continuity error, a misplaced prop, or an intentional joke? My Name is Earl exists in a world where karma can be measured, where Randy can accidentally become a genius, where fate enjoys playing tricks. In a world like that, Kentucky having palm trees suddenly doesn't feel so absurd. Maybe Camden was never meant to follow the rules of the real world at all. 10. Earl's El Camino is a Frankenstein car. There's something strange about this back then when I watched My Name is Earl. Casually, I barely remembered the El Camino at all. In my vague memory, it was just an old car passing through scenes. No aura, no personality, no reason to pay attention. It was there because Earl needed a car. Only later rewatching the show with a different mindset did I realise I missed it, precisely because it wasn't flashy. That El Camino wasn't a proper car. The body was a 1973 El Camino. The doors were from a 1977 model. Inside, it used a 1987 Camaro transmission, a machine stitched together from parts that didn't belong to each other, incomplete, incoherent, yet still running. And suddenly it felt deeply familiar. Familiar in the way life does once you've been through enough collisions to understand that your own existence is also a temporary assembly, carrying the old, fixing what's broken, patching what's torn and moving on. Not because everything is fine, but because stopping isn't an option yet. Back then, I only saw an old car. Now I see all of Earl in it, 9. One actor played 3 siblings. Do you remember that odd feeling that Camden County seemed like a town where everyone kind of looked alike, as if you'd seen them somewhere before? At the time, I just thought, small town, lots of relatives, that's normal. It was only much later that I learned the truth. Billy Gardell played all 3 siblings in the Ho family. One actor, 3 different characters. Different hairstyles, different clothes, different rhythms, but the same face. Different enough not to stand out, similar enough for your brain to accept it without resistance. And that's exactly what made Camden feel so real. In small towns, you always get the sense that everyone is connected somehow. My Name is Earl doesn't explain it. It lets you believe you've met these people before. 8. The one-eyed mailman is Randy's real-life father. Some details just feel pleasant, even if you don't know why. The one-eyed mailman in Camden is one of them. He appears briefly, doesn't deliver big laughs, but always gives off a sense of familiarity. The truth is, he is familiar. The one-eyed mailman is played by Bill Suplee, and he is the real-life father of Ethan Suplee, who plays Randy. Father and son acted together without most viewers ever realizing it. That natural chemistry is what makes Camden feel like a real town where relationships don't need explaining, where the mailman might be related to someone, and nobody finds that strange. Sometimes the best acting is when no acting is required. 7. Randy changed so much in real life that no one recognized him. In my memory, Randy is forever the innocent, slow-moving younger brother who always needs Earl to guide him step by step, a child trapped in an adult body. Then, years later, I saw photos of Ethan Suplee in real life and had to look twice. He lost over 90 kilograms. A transformation so extreme it's almost unbelievable. From the clumsy image of Randy, Ethan became a symbol of discipline, physical strength, and self-reinvention. What stopped me cold was the irony Randy on screen never grows up. But Ethan in real life broke free from the very image that once defined him, a post-sitcom shock, and proof that sometimes the person who changes the most is the one you least expect. 6. A real injury became part of the show. Do you remember moments when My Name is Earl felt slightly offbeat? A scene that seemed messier than usual? A collision that looked genuinely painful rather than acted? Back then, I just thought they were trying to make it feel more real. It turns out, sometimes it was real. In one episode, parodying a police show, an actor playing a cop actually smashed his face into a patrol car door. An accident not in the script. But instead of cutting, he kept acting as if nothing had happened. And the crew kept it in. Not because they lacked coverage, but because it perfectly captured the spirit of Earl. Life always hits you in the face when you're not ready. And you're left with only one choice: get up and keep going. That's where the line between fiction and reality blurs. And My Name is Earl always lived best in that blur. 5. Darnell, the kindest man in Camden and the most dangerous. The first time I watched the show, I always thought of Darnell as the safe character. He's gentle, soft-spoken. He flips crab patties and offers calm advice. The kind of person you trust would never hurt anyone. Then the twist hits. Darnell isn't just the owner of the crab shack. He's a former CIA assassin living under witness protection. And once you know that the entire series changes colour. On rewatch, everything feels suspicious. The excessive calm, the eerily precise advice, the instinctive way he handles crises. Darnell was never gentle. He was trained not to reveal himself. In a town full of fools, the most dangerous person is the quiet one. And it's one of My Name is Earl's smartest reversals. 4. Big Chubby and Little Chubby. A joke not everyone catches. Some jokes in My Name is Earl make you laugh instantly. Others only work if you bring your memories with you. Big Chubby is played by Burt Reynolds. Little Chubby, his on-screen son, is played by Norm Macdonald. At first glance, it looks like fun casting, but for anyone who watched Saturday Night Live, this is a razor-sharp jab. Norm Macdonald spent years parodying Burt Reynolds on SNL, especially in the Celebrity Jeopardy sketches. And in My Name is Earl, Norm even wears the exact outfit from those parodies. The result? The man who mocked Burt Reynolds gets cast as his son. A perfect meta joke. No explanation needed, no emphasis required. My Name is Earl is always like this. It never demands that you catch everything, but if you do it, rewards you quietly. 3. Every episode's end credit features Greg Garcia's real-life friends. Back then, you were probably like me. Once the episode ended, you reached for the remote. The end credits rolled by out of habit with no reason to stop. But My Name is Earl hid something kind-hearted in the place few people ever looked. At the end of every episode appears a small line, Amigos de Garcia, alongside the image of a different person each time. Not actors, not characters, but Greg Garcia's real-life friends. There are 96 episodes, and there are 96 friends quietly honoured on television. While most series use end credits for logos and legal text, Garcia used them to say, "I remember you." A small gesture, but perfectly in the spirit of Earl spreading goodness without showing off. 2. Catalina isn't swearing, she's saying thank you. Everyone remembers how throughout the series, Catalina fires off rapid Spanish lines full of apparent rage. No subtitles, no explanations. Audiences naturally assumed she must be swearing like crazy. The truth is the opposite. What Catalina says isn't profanity, it's thank you messages to Latino viewers, thanking them for watching, for supporting the show, for staying with it. A hidden tribute that only those who understand the language would catch. It's the purest form of My Name is Earl's hidden karma chaos, on the surface kindness underneath. A small gift for those willing to listen. 1. The ending of My Name is Earl has existed since 2013. When NBC cancelled the show mid-run, we believed Earl's story had been cut off forever. The list unfinished. Earl Jr.'s real father unknown. And NBC turning its back. But on October 1st, 2013, Greg Garcia revealed the ending during an online AMA. When asked who is Earl Jr.'s real father, Garcia joked that it could be Dave Chappelle or Lil Jon, some celebrity Joy once slept with. But the real answer was elsewhere. Earl would never finish the list. He would get stuck on one item, then meet someone else with a list. That person would inspire another and another. Earl would realise that his list had created a chain reaction. People were living better, not because of Earl, but because they wanted to. The true final moment is Earl tearing up the list. He understands he no longer needs it. The good has already spread. He walks toward the horizon, free. The list doesn't end because it's no longer necessary. And perhaps that is the most fitting ending for a show that believed a single act of kindness could travel farther than the person who started it. There's something strange about revisiting My Name is Earl after all these years. Back then, we watched it as a simple sitcom to get through the evening. An unlucky man with a thick moustache, a handwritten list, a quirky town full of oddballs. But on rewatch, the show changes its tone. It's no longer just about karma, it's about how small mistakes can carry us far, about clumsy people who refuse to give up, and about how sometimes you don't need to finish any list at all, just make the world around you a little better. Earl never becomes perfect. Camden never becomes ideal. But the good spreads quietly, persistently, just like the way this show has lived on in our memories. When you rewatch My Name is Earl, which detail made you stop and think, how did I miss this back then? Is there a moment with Earl, Randy, Joy or Darnell that still stays with you today? Share it in the comments. And if you enjoy revisiting old shows to uncover the things we once overlooked, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to join us on more television memories.